Hi guys, and welcome back to the Emily Knits podcast channel. My name is Emily. I'm a knitter and crocheter based in the north of Nottinghamshire in the UK, where I live close to Sherwood Forest with my other half, my now husband that I need to get used to saying, and our two dogs. You may notice before we get properly started today that we're in a slightly different location than we normally are. I am in the same place I'm in when I normally film, but I have finally invested in a taller tripod so I can actually sit on the bed instead of in front of the bed. The lighting isn't massively great here today. This does have a ring light. I'm going to pop it on and show you. I'm not 100% sure I like it yet, so we're working with that. It reflects a lot off my glasses. So I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I'm not used to having a ring light, so it's going to feel a bit different. Let me know what you think, if you like it better without, which is what most of the video is going to be, or if you like it with. I think the ring light's going to come in more in handy as we get into closer, darker nights and things like that, but at the moment it's a lovely day outside, so I'm going to turn it off and we'll just go for normal lighting today. The dogs aren't normally allowed on this bed, and I've been trying very hard to get one of them to come up here so that we could have a little guest in the video, but neither of them will. So I've got all my knitting and projects and things at this side so that I can try and coax them to join me on that side. So there is a possibility that they may come and join at some point, and we might have a visitor, but we shall see. At the moment they're being very stubborn and they don't want to, which is very standard of my dogs, being very, very stubborn. So we have a traditional format podcast today. I've got a lot to talk about, and I'm thinking about actually moving to a weekly filming schedule, because I originally picked 2 weeks because I didn't think I would have enough to talk about every week, but honestly the amount that I have over 2 weeks to talk about makes me think that I will have enough to talk about. So it's going to be a relatively long one again. I have a cup of coffee in a lovely little, I've got this the wrong way around, but I've got a lovely little raccoon mug that my other half got me, if I can show you without spilling it. I'm very, very pleased with him. I like my little raccoon. So grab yourself a drink and we'll get into it. Before I get into it proper, let me tell you where you can find me, or you can find me, whichever, because I forgot about this last time. So you can obviously find me here on YouTube, and I am always fairly active in the comments, and I try and respond to as many as I can. You can always comment down below. You can also find me on Instagram as the same username as here, which is Emily_knits_. You can find me on Ravelry as EmilyKnits36. You can also now email me on emilyknitspodcast@gmail.com if you have any questions that I haven't answered below, or you just want to reach out to me in a way that isn't on such a public forum. Please feel free to message me on there. You can also find me on Ko-fi if you wanted to support the podcast, and that again is Emily Knits. I have also set up a Ravelry wishlist. I said I wasn't going to, and I'm still unsure fully how I feel about it, because what I don't want to do, and what I did a little bit, is I already have a massive library of patterns. I don't want you guys to be buying me things and then it takes me ages to get around to knitting them. So as long as you're aware that it probably won't be instant that I knit something that you buy me, I will put a link below to my Ravelry wish list, and you can buy me something off there if you wanted to. The reason I eventually set it up in the end was a couple of people had asked me for it, and a couple of people have very kindly gifted me patterns as like wedding presents, which has been really, really sweet, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I thought, like I said, originally I was a bit resistant to it, mainly because I don't want you guys to have to wait for me to knit things that you've bought me. But I then realised, thinking about it more, that some people don't want to sort of actually just give money to something. Like, you might want to support, but not in a way of physically just giving a £5 or something like that. So if you do want to do that, what the people that have bought me patterns have done, one in particular said she picked something off the wish list that was on her list as well that she also wanted to knit, and I like that a lot. Knowing what you guys like and what you'd like to see me knit, I like that aspect of it. So I have put below a link to my Ravelry wish list. If you did want to support me by buying a pattern off there for me, then thank you very much. I will keep adding to that. I am quite prolific in favouriting things on Ravelry, so I will keep adding to that, and if there's anything that you see on there that you want to see me knit, feel free to buy me it, and I'll get around to it eventually, maybe at some point. Without further ado then, I'll briefly talk about what I'm wearing, and then we'll get into it, because we've got 4 finished objects to talk about and quite a lot of whips, most of which are new and you've not seen before. So there's a lot to say today. I've got a lot to say. So yeah, let's talk about what I'm wearing. I think I've worn this on the podcast before, so I'm not going to talk about it in massive depth. This is the Cirrus sweater, which is a pattern by Iris of Hirismakes, who is probably one of my favourite designers. I've made loads from her, and I've got a couple of patterns in my library to knit from her. This was a test knit for her probably about a year ago, I think, at this point, and it's one of my most worn sweaters, which says a lot because there are a couple of issues with it. So first off, I've lost a bit of weight since I knit this, and it's all a bit baggy and oversized on me, more so than it should be. I've got probably about 10 inches of positive ease in this now, and it's bigger than it should be, definitely. And the other thing is, you might have seen when I held my sleeve up, this has pilled like mad. So I can't remember the size that I knit, but if I was to knit it again, which I definitely would, I would go down a size. And I knit it in Cascade 220, held with a strand of drops of mohair. The Cascade was in the shade, not Pine, Shire, and the mohair was in the shade dark green. And I love the combo together. It just pills like crazy, so just be warned if you do that. But I still wear it loads. It's got this lovely detail that's picking up really nicely on the camera. It's a contiguous shoulder construction, and it's got this lovely broken rib detail that also comes down the front here, and then also goes down the entire side of the jumper. And the neckline is also a bit wide, and again, I think that's because I've lost some weight. It's probably at least one size up now than I would actually need to knit for my size currently, but I love it. I would very highly recommend it. Like I say, I wear it loads. I really like the mohair with it. I haven't knit anything in mohair probably since this. This was probably about the last thing I knit with mohair held with it, and in a way, I kind of miss it because it's lovely. So yeah, maybe you'll see some more mohair coming. One sec. I should say, I think I'm coming down with a bit of a cold, so there will probably be quite a lot of cuts and edits for me sneezing. I'm really sorry, and there'll definitely be a bit of that, a bit of sniffing. My nose, touch wood, isn't itching, so hopefully there won't be 50 million nose itches like there were last time. But yeah, without any further ado, let's get into it. We'll talk about finished objects first, and the first one I'm going to talk about I don't have here to show you. So I finished last time I was talking about needing to recast on the sample socks that I was knitting for Ellie of Dyed in the Wool Yarns. I was knitting the Truth Is Out There socks by Stone Knits. And I had started them and I'd shown them on the podcast before. So it was using her 75-25 merino nylon sock yarn. The black, in black and green, the black was the shade Sabbath and the green was the shade Roots Radical. And I cast them on, and I basically not fully followed the pattern. I followed the colour work and everything like that, but Stone Knits had said to start on a 2.25mm, which I hadn't done because I don't anyway. I always go up to a 2.5. But she'd said once you'd finished your cuff to go up to a 2.5 to go up a needle size. And I hadn't done that. I'd carried on a 2.5. And I also hadn't read the bit where she'd said not to catch floats. So I'd caught every 4 or 5 stitches, something like that. And the socks were too small. They were too tight. And I got to a point where I could put them on some try-it-on tubing and try, and there was no way they were going over anyone's heel. So I had to rip them out again, and that's where we were last episode. I'd ripped them out. I didn't have anything to show you. They were just 2 disparate balls of yarn, a black and a green. So I cast them back on, and I have finished them. And they've gone back to Ellie, and hopefully, I'm hoping they should have arrived with her yesterday, but I know she was unwell. So it's maybe that she wasn't able to get them. Hopefully they should have been with her yesterday, or they should be getting back to her today, and I'm hoping to have confirmation that they've arrived safely, because I was very pleased with them actually in the end. Never again am I knitting all over colourwork socks. They were a slog. Not any reflection of, not really of the pattern or the yarn, but just all over colourwork socks. I'm good for that. I don't ever want to do that again. I'll grab some coffee. But in one way they were quite satisfying, because it was just like, oh, I'll just do another repeat. I'll just do another alien head. And in other ways, I got to the end, and poor Mona of Getting It Out is somebody I'm lucky to consider a friend in the community. Pretty much every day was having to tell me, just work on your socks, just get them done, like just pick them up and do them. So yeah, Mona was my cheerleader / slave driver, which I needed, so thank you. And they got done. So I can't fully tell you how much yarn I used. I had a really weird thing with these. The yarn is lovely, by the way. I don't really understand how all dyers use 75%. Well, most will have a 75-25 base, but they're not all created equal. Some are softer than others, and this was a really nice one. When I was knitting it, I thought it was quite a high twist, but actually when you block it, it blooms beautifully. So it was nice to knit with, and it blocked really nicely. So very, very nice yarn. And Ellie's colours are beautiful. Ellie's colours are really gorgeous. So yeah, highly recommend that. But I also think she must be quite generous in her skeins, because I had a weird thing. I weighed what was left of each one, and I didn't write down the proper numbers. I should have done. But I feel like whatever numbers I had, I'd only used about 50 grams worth of yarn, something like that overall. And when I weighed the socks weighed 70 grams. That doesn't add up. So I think the skeins must be quite generous, and I think I must have had about 110 grams of each, maybe. And I would imagine, I can't tell you how much I used of each, but looking at the proportions that I had left, I would imagine maybe about 40 grams of black and 30 grams of green, or maybe 45, 25 of each. So really quite light on the yardage. And I made the middle size, 64 stitch size, to a UK size 7 woman's foot, which is what, 41 in EU sizes. And I'm trying to get better at recording as well how long these took me to do. So I cast these back on Halloween. They've taken me a lot longer than that all over, because obviously I cast them on before, didn't go very well, picked them back up again when I came back from from honeymoon. But I cast them back on again properly on Halloween. And I finished them on the 9th of November. So they took me 10 days to knit. I could have done them quicker. Say by the end I was having to force myself to pick them up and work on them, because I was just fed up of them. But they really didn't take long. It surprised me that in 10 days I could knit a pair of colourwork socks, and I wonder how quick, and I wondered if it would be of interest to do that. How quick could I knit a pair of stockinette socks? Because I think looking at that, it would be quite quick. So maybe we'll do that. I knit the cuff and the heel and the toe on 2.5mm needles. And then I knit the body of the sock, the rest of it, basically the leg and the foot, on 2.75mm DPNs. And apparently I'm a DPN knitter now, because I really enjoyed that. I don't normally get on with DPNs very well, but I did really enjoy that. So I might be doing some more DPN knitting moving forwards for socks and things like that. So yeah, they're done. And they were a big relief off the shoulders to have got back, because yeah, I was stressed about those. Ellie was fab and was really understanding, and yeah, absolutely fab. So they're done and they're gone, and that was a weight off the shoulders. So so let's move on to the next finished object, which you might have seen if you follow me on Instagram, and we've talked about last time. This is this massive blanket. This is the Yorkshire, I caught the cable, so I've just wobbled my tripod. Okay, I've changed the angle a little bit. I've realised that actually I had the tripod a bit too close, and this might be a bit better. I felt like I was speaking with my hands up here, so this might be a bit better, but I'm not going to re-record the first bit because it will take me ages. Guys, don't ever get double-coated dogs. Your life just becomes dog hair. It's ridiculous. I finished my Yorkshire crochet along blanket. I didn't make note of when I started this and when I finished this, unfortunately. But it was a crochet along, so it ran for however many weeks, and I think I finished it a couple of weeks before the end of the crochet along. I will put up a reel that I filmed of me holding this up and sort of rolling it out, so you can see it in a bit more in its glory, because it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I was very happy with how this turned out. So this was a crochet along run by Amelia of Hirismakes, who I realised, I don't think I mentioned last time, but I didn't know when I originally started making this blanket. She has a fabulous YouTube channel. She's based in Yorkshire. She's a UK-based podcaster. She knits and crochets, and I really like watching her. She's very detailed about the stuff that she talks about. She works through stuff quite methodically, and in crochet, she designs quite a lot in crochet, and she designs some fabulous things. This is one of the most well-written patterns I think I've ever had. I think I said originally when I started the crochet along, it cost about £9 for the full pattern, which might seem quite steep, but the amount that you get in there. So there was multiple different files. There was there was like a getting started guide, which included yardages and all that sort of stuff, but also included some colour schemes that she'd put together using a few different, I've got a dangly thread there, I'll sort that out later. Colour schemes that she'd put together in different types of yarns and how many you'd need of each. There was a whole glossary of stitch abbreviations, stitch terms and stuff like that, but then step-by-step instructions on how to do all of these stitches. And then the entire pattern was in both US and UK terms, and she'd done video tutorials for each square as well. So this was run over however many weeks, but you can still buy the pattern and you can still do this whenever you want. And essentially there were 12 different square patterns, and you do 2 of each square. So she's done 12 separate video tutorials for all these different squares. You do 2 of each square and you join them together at the end, and she's done a joining tutorial and the border, which if I show you, maybe better to show you without 2 held together would be good, wouldn't it? This lovely border all around with the what do you call them, these things but with puff stitches in them as well. It was really fun to do, really satisfying. Very pleased with the yarn and the colours that I chose, which wasn't some of the recommended yarn, but I'm very pleased with it. And yeah, overall, absolutely love it. I finished this probably about a week and a half ago, and every single night I've been under it on the sofa. It's fabulous. Like I say, I popped the reel in that shows you it unrolled and how big it is. But I'm very pleased with this. I very highly recommend the pattern. I will very definitely be looking at some other patterns that Amelia's made from Hirismakes, because yeah, they're really, really good. So this is not a cheap project, let's just say that there and then. I used 5 different shades of my colour yarn, which is, all of this is in Yarn Smith's Pebble Haze DK. And I used a 5mm hook for all of it. So I've made mine a bit bigger than she recommends as well for the DK weight. I should have said that. There are instructions or gauges and everything for fingering weight and DK weight yarn. I did mine in DK, but I used a bigger hook, so my squares are a bit bigger, but they came out really nice. If you can see that one, it's quite hard to show you. Oh God, come on. There's still really nice stitch definition. Yeah, I really liked working this with a 5mm hook. It worked out really, really nicely. Show you the next one as well. I love this one. This is the Yorkshire Rose square, and it really is. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm not going to be able to remember all the colours of the Yarn Smiths that I used. I know the white is marble. I used one of their solid colours for joining. And then I used 5 different ones of their prints. Yarn Smith's Pebble Haze prints. Excuse me, for the colours. I know the green is Aldborough. This sort of greeny grey colour. This is Cold Nap. This one is all blues and purples, but there are a couple of others that are Cold Nap that sort of go into greens. And yeah, you can see that one there is blues, greens, pinks. That's also Cold Nap, this one here. That one next to it is Saltburn, not Saltburn. I did buy Saltburn and I wasn't very keen on it, and it was cream, so I didn't use it because it would have been too close. This one is Rye Hope. This was all pinks and oranges and blues. That's also Rye Hope there. And then this one, which this has a massive amount of variation in it. This one is Peppercoom. And this, I think, was my favourite colour. So that's also Peppercoom, just to give you an idea of the variety in the colours. That's also Peppercoom. That one's also Peppercoom. This was almost like a vintagey rainbow colour. I've got a sweater's quantity of this, and I don't know whether I want to crochet with it or knit with it. I've loved crocheting with this yarn. I've not knit with it yet, and part of me thinks I should try crocheting with it, and the other part of me part of me thinks I should knit with it, and the other half of me just really wants to continue crocheting with it because it's absolutely stunning. But yeah, over the moon with this. This might be, obviously, my the thing I'm most pleased with that I've made in 2024 is my wedding dress, which is actually just behind there. But this might be giving it a run for its money. It might, honestly. It's so beautiful. Like, it's so good. It's so good. I love it so much. I'm so pleased with it. I want to make another. I want to make it in all the colours. I want to make many, many, many of these. It's wonderful. So let's talk about some costs, because like I say, it wasn't cheap. Let me get my numbers. So Yarn Smith's Pebble Haze DK is a 67% cotton, 33% acrylic yarn. So it's a blown yarn, which means that's really quite light, despite the fact that it's big and there's a lot of yarn in it. It's not super heavy and over the top. Annoyingly, the prints and the solids come in different quantities. So the solids come in 50-gram balls, and the prints come in 150-gram cakes. So for the cakes, I used the vast majority of each of those. I used 5 150-gram cakes, one in each of the different colours, and I used the vast majority of each of those colours. There was probably about maybe 20 grams of each one left, a little bit less of Aldborough because I started off with a bit less because I'd used some to finish off a shawl that I made earlier in the year. Those cakes are 453 metres per 150 grams. So that's about 2,250 meters of yarn for the squares alone. Like I say, 5mm hook, and I used pretty much all of the yarn that I had there. I also then used to join 9 50-gram balls of the marble, which is that white colour. They are 145 meters per 50 grams, so I used about 1,305 meters of yarn there. There was maybe half a ball left over, if that, maybe about 20 grams as well left over of that. So the yardages were really, really good for what she'd given in the pattern, because that's what I ordered from. So the pricing is it's a bit difficult to work out. Yarnsmiths is, I think it's Wool Warehouse's own yarn. I think it's only sold on there, and they quite often do discounts on it. So I bought all of my yarn for this discounted. They have also now put in bulk pricing, so if it's not on sale, you get bulk pricing on it if you order a certain amount. I've not been able to go on and see either of these not on sale to work out what that bulk pricing is, but that might be an option. So full price, the 150-gram cakes, the coloured ones, cost £10, but they are regularly on sale, and I bought them on sale and they are still on sale for £6. So that means £30 worth of yarn for the 5 cakes. At full price, that would have been £50 for the 5 cakes. The 9 50-gram balls, again, full price, they're £3.20, but very regularly, and still, I bought them at this price, and they're still at this price, is £1.92 a ball. So again, £28.80 full price if you get it at that full price, £17.28 if you get it on that discounted price. So the full price totally, if there was no discounts, would have been £78.80 for all of this. That's a lot of money, isn't it, for a blanket? But actually, on the discounted price, it was £47.28, which is still quite a lot of money for a blanket. But this will be a bit of an heirloom. This is not going anywhere. This is, like I said, every single day this has been used. I'm super pleased with this. I adore it. So very highly recommend the yarn. Very highly recommend the pattern. Very highly recommend Hirismakes YouTube channel. So yeah, go check them all out. But like I said, I finished it a week and a half ago, and every single night it's been used. Every single night it's been used. I absolutely adore it. I'm going to stop talking about it because I've already spent about 20 minutes banging on about how much I love it, and I could carry on, honestly, I really could. So that's finished object number 2. Let's get the little one out of the way that I look stupid in. So I joined in on a test knit for the Irene Headband, no, not way around, by Journey Through Yarn. Rebecca is a really lovely designer. We're going to talk about one more of her designs in a bit, which was another test knit I'm going to be doing for her. And then this popped up, if I'm honest, this popped up whilst we were on honeymoon in Portugal, and it was lunchtime and I'd had quite a bit of sangria, and I just did it. I didn't think. I was like, yeah, I'll test that. And then came back and got an email about it and was like, oh yeah, I did apply for that when I was a bit drunk. So yeah, I'm no longer allowed to drunkenly go on Instagram because I might apply for test knits. But it didn't matter because this was really, really quick. This is the Irene Headband. So you may remember earlier in the year, probably when I started my channel actually, I was working on the Irene Sweater, which was a test knit, and I love that. Again, I've got the same problem as I've got with this. It's in Cascade, so it's pilled really easily. But I do love the pattern, and I love these dip stitches that it's got on it. You can see them there. And this is going to be, I think this is going to be a charity release. It is now out. I think this is going to be a charity pattern. I'm going to put this on, but you've all got to promise not to laugh at me. Stuff like this doesn't suit me, which is fine because I didn't make it because I wanted it to look good. I made it because this is fabulously functional for me. Walking the dogs on a morning I get cold ears, so don't laugh. I'm watching. If you laugh, I'll know. I've also got to put it under my ponytail because currently the ponytail's a bit high. Oops. Oh God. Chaos. I just dropped my book. It's all right. Do you want to come up here? Do you want to come see? Look, I look like Rambo. That all went wrong. You may have seen. I put the headband on. I do still think I look like Rambo. I put the headband on. I nearly dropped my book. Some papers fell out of my book. It caught the wire on the way down, so the tripod wobbled, and then the dog started barking because she was upset. Anyway, all that being said, let me get this out of the way and show you how this looks. So like I said, I know this doesn't flatter me. I know with a fringe this does not really work. However, it covers my ears really nicely and it keeps them warm, which is exactly what I want it to be. And yeah, this is going to be perfect for dog walks. So this is a really quick knit, and it would be a really good little gift knit. I've completely forgotten to weigh it, so I'll do that and I'll pop it on screen how much it used. It didn't use much, and it didn't take me long. I did it over about 3 days, but if I just cracked on and just worked on this and not really done anything else, I would have got it done in probably a day. So essentially the way it works, let me take it off so I can show you. I kind of don't want to because it's keeping my ears really nice and warm. Oh God. You cast on at the back. So I don't know if you can tell, I might be able to show it like this. It's double thickness. So you cast on at the back, you knit some stockinette, you come essentially around the front and you knit all this. And then you knit some more stockinette and then you graft it together at the back. So not only is it really warm, because it's knit again in Cascade 220, so it's lovely and woolly and warm. I knit again in the shade Shire. It's lovely and woolly and warm because of that. But it's also double thickness, so it's really nice for dog walks. I haven't used it yet because the weather's then been warm, of course it has. But it will very definitely get a lot of wear this winter. I'm going to pop it in the car basically, so when I get out of the car in the morning to walk the dog, that's even worse, isn't it? Put it just above my... Let's take that off and stop doing that. But yeah, this was a very quick knit, very fun, would make a really nice little gift knit. And very functional for me, even if it doesn't look great, it's very, very functional for me. So that's what was the point of it. So that was finished object number 3. Used up a little scrap of yarn that I had left as well, which was great. And then finished object number 4, hopefully you've seen from the thumbnail, because I did have it in the thumbnail. I finished this beast. This is beautiful. This fits me, so let me pop this on and show you. Oh. This beauty, it's all bunched up at the bottom, is, every time, the Duncan men's cabled raglan pullover, something like that, by Sarah Hatton for West Yorkshire Spinners. I knit this for my husband, using up some yarn that I had left in stash, and I had to purchase a bit more to finish it, but I knit the size, I think I knit the second size for him, which was like a 46-inch bust, or 40, can't remember, put it on the screen. And this is a bottom-up raglan pullover, knit flat and seamed. Let me just see if I can try and spill my coffee because I've got it on the sofa. You can see the detail a bit better if I stand up. It's got these beautiful cables on it. The back's the same. The only difference is you've got a bit of shaping up here at the top for the front, and the back is a bit more straight and comes up a bit higher. So this is recommended to be knit in West Yorkshire Spinners Croft, I think, Aaron. Dog hair again. But I knit this in Wendy Pure Wool Aran in the shade Stag. This is 100% British wool. It's quite rustic. It's quite heavy. This has been massively successful. He's worn this multiple times this week already. I finished it the other way. I'm not super keen on the neckline. It's quite loose and quite baggy. He's all right with it. But I'm almost tempted to come back in and re-pick up and do a folded neckline with some elastic in, because you can see on me and this is exactly to pattern. This is how it should look, so it's a bit lower than I would like, but otherwise it's absolutely beautiful. So I started this on the 8th of September and I finished it on the 1st of November. So this was on the needles for 55 days. I wasn't working on it monogamously. You could very definitely finish this quicker if you wanted. I really liked having the flat panels to work on. 2 of them obviously have the cables, and then the stockinette sleeves were quite a bit of a break to basically just whip through those. But I was very pleased with it. I think it looks really good. He loves it. He absolutely loves it. So you knit them flat in panels, and these raglans are actually seamed. What is that? Is that a hole? Ooh, yeah, there is. There's a bit where I've knit. Okay, I need to do a fixed job there. There's a bit where I've missed a stitch when I'm seaming, so I just need to fix that up. Yeah, it was on the needles for 55 days, and I knit this, like I said, in 100% wool yarn from Wendy. It comes in big 200 gram balls. I haven't written down the yardage of that, so I will put that on screen. But I had to use 815 grams. 815 grams of yarn, ever so slightly into it would be into a fifth ball. So to make this, I would need to use 5 balls of that, which it's the RRP is £8.50 a ball. I bought it for £7.39, and I found a few shops where you could get it for £7.39 for a 200 gram ball. And so that overall meant the overall cost of this was £36.95, whereas if you get it at that £8.50, it would be £42.50. Again, for a men's sweater in 100% wool, I think that's pretty good. I do think that's pretty good. The one thing I would mention as well is I didn't modify it at all except to add some length to it. Otherwise I knit completely to pattern. But to each panel, so the front, the back and the two sleeves, I added about 5 centimetres of length. Because he's tall, my husband, 6'4", and he's got a very tall torso. He's got a long torso. That's where he has his length. Annoyingly, I think this suits me a bit better than my Cirrus. I keep looking at me in the viewfinder and thinking, yeah, I might leave this on for the rest of the thing. I think this looks really good. So maybe I need to make myself one. What was I going to say? Yeah, so if you didn't need to add that length and you were knitting the second size, you could probably get that out of 4 balls, which would take £7 something off the total, wouldn't it? So you'd be looking at more like £35 instead of £42. That would be quite a difference, wouldn't it? So yeah, very, very highly recommend this. I wasn't a big fan of seaming. I didn't enjoy doing it, clearly, because I've got a hole there. But it does give a lot of structure to the garment at the end, which is quite nice for this kind of thing. He wears this almost as an outerwear piece, walking the dog. He has a t-shirt underneath it. He has a coat on top. It looks really good under his coat. And he's already worn it multiple times. So I've learned that the sweet spot with him is not to make things as a surprise for him, not garments at least, but to ask him. He tells me the kind of thing that he wants. He said he wanted a cabled sweater in this creamy colour. And I went and found a few patterns and I sent them to him and said, pick one, and he picked this and he loves it. So that's been the sweet spot for me, is he picks basically. I make what he wants and he picks. But yeah, very glad it's done, because again, I was starting to feel a bit guilty about it not being done when he kept asking me for it. Okay, we're back in normal clothes. So that's all the finished objects. Let's talk about some whips. Oh, they're all tangled. Let me just get this first. First of all, we're going to talk about one you've already seen, and then we'll move into something you haven't. And I'm going to sneeze. I don't know if I've changed the frame in there slightly. I knocked the tripod again. I will get used to it, I promise. Let me see if I can. That's a bit better, I think, isn't it? Oh well. So that's all my finished objects. Oh my god, I'm sorry. I've just sneezed again. That's all the finished objects. Let's talk about some whips. And first off, we're going to talk about one you've seen, but I've made quite a lot of progress on. There are ends everywhere on this. Don't come for me. I know. I know, and I know I'm terrible at it. But this is another one that's made flat in pieces, and then you seam it together. And it also does tell you to leave some long ends at the top for seaming. So I know they're there. They will be done, but they're not going to be done yet. So I talked about this last time. I realised last time I was a terrible podcaster. This is the Breton Sweater, which is a test crochet for Graces Handmade. For Graces Handmade, who is a fantastic designer. When I showed you last time, I completely forgot to show you a picture of what it should look like. Now you'll get a bit of a better idea, because I've got the front panel completed. So this is a crochet sweater, crocheted from the bottom up in pieces, and then you join it together. I think last time when I showed you, I had maybe about yay much, something like that. I now have all of my front panel. This looks so big. It is a bit oversized on me. So I'm crocheting size 6, which is, so the sizes were 44 to 46 inch bust or 48 to 50 inch bust. And I've gone for the 48 to 50, which I think is, yeah, size 6. I said that, didn't I? It gives me a bit of positive ease. But I'm quite happy with that. I think it gives me, actually, in the end, it'll give me about 10 inches of positive ease. But I'm quite happy with that, because I want this to be a bit of a comfy, cosy throw-on sweater. I have yarn, like I said, to make another one if I want to, which I think I might want to. And I think I'm going to make a smaller size, rather than make the size down and make a more fitted one. But yeah, we finished the front panel. So let me, I was going to say I'll fold it in half, but I'll fold it in half to show you the bottom. So you start off, God, this is really long. You start off at the very bottom with this rib that we talked about last time, and then I'm using the Yarnsmith's Pebble Haze again. So this is, again, the shade Marble, which is what I joined my blanket with, and this is the shade Cian, which wasn't in the blanket, and is the sweater quantity I got afterwards. And these are just all the colour changes from the yarn, and then you do some stripes. The stripes are obviously optional. You could do more stripes, you could do less stripes, but I followed the pattern for the stripes because I like them. And then you do some shaping for the top. And I've done a bit of colour management. Obviously with colour changing yarn, you do one side first and then you do the other. And if I just carried on, I'd have had different colours on each side, if that makes sense, because I'd have been further on in the colour change. So I did a bit of yarn management and I've managed to get a fairly good, it's not an exact match, but they are very definitely in the same family on the sides. And this is where we're at. So my next thing is I need to do the back panel, which is basically the same but with no V. I've started that, but I've done maybe about an inch of the rib at the bottom. I've not done any more than that, so there was no point me showing that to you. And then once I've done the rib I found quite time consuming. But once I'd got that done, the rest really flew. As you can tell, I've done the entire front panel, of a sweater in about a week. Because it's been a few days since I've actually worked on this, because I got the front panel done and then put it aside for a bit. But I'm really happy with how this is turning out. I love how the colours are going. I love that it's proper like rainbowy, almost slightly pastel rainbow. I really love how it's working up. And again, love crocheting with this yarn. So in contrast, I worked on that with a 5mm hook. This was a 3.5mm, so it is quite different. But it's still creating a nice fabric. It's not as drapey as the other one, but you kind of don't want it to be because it's a sweater. And it's got this really lovely stitch in it. Which I don't know what stitch it is. It's using half double crochets and things to make this texture. But I absolutely love the texture and the way that it's working up. So this is progressing very nicely. I've got ages left on the deadline for this. It's something like, I thought it was December, but it's something like January. So I'm going to be done well in advance of that. And I can't wait. It's going to be a really nice, easy, comfy throw-on sweater. So that's the Breton Sweater. We'll stick with the theme of crochet and we'll talk about this massive bag. So I clearly have absolutely loved crocheting blankets, if this is anything to go by. So I clearly, if that's anything to go by, I've absolutely loved it. And I felt a bit of a void. I felt a bit of a void not having it. So I decided, I saw a post that Yarnsmiths had put up. This is again Yarnsmiths yarn. This is different Yarnsmiths yarn though. Of a blanket that was made in their yarn, and instantly I was like, I want that. So this is the pattern is called Be More Vivienne by, I've completely forgotten the designer name and I haven't written it down. The original pattern was I think it was for a publication, maybe for Crochet Now or something like that, and it was inspired by Vivienne Westwood, hence Be More Vivienne. And the original colours for the original one are all pinks and blues and yellows and that kind of thing. But it's a tartan effect blanket, so she'd done a festive version of it using Yarnsmiths yarn called the Festive Vivienne, and this is what it looks like. It's stunning. I love tartan. I absolutely love tartan. So you know that I instantly got the pattern and the recommended yarn and cast on. And this is where we're at. So essentially you knit a big flat panel. You crochet a big flat panel, and then once you're done you do some, I think it's called overlay crochet, is it, at the top, to vertical lines to make that tartan effect. And you don't weave in your ends because you keep them as fringe, which I really quite like actually. And yeah, this is only a couple of nights of work. I love the colours. I absolutely love the colours. So these are all, I got the ball band to show you, Yarnsmiths Create Aran, which is 100% acrylic. 100 grams is 195 metres or 210 yards, which feels like quite a light Aran. Maybe I'm making that up. It doesn't feel like it when I'm working with it. It's actually quite a nice acrylic. It's not my favourite, but it's not my least favourite either. It says you should have 18 stitches and 24 rows on a 5mm needle or hook. Yeah, it's really not bad. It's not awful. It's not great. So we've got in here, we've got obviously black and cream. They're fairly easy. I'm pretty certain this is Christmas green, Christmas red, and antique gold is that yellowy colour there. And they're the 5 colours that you're going to use. I've got them all here. And cream. So this is the colour palette. The red and the green particularly are gorgeous. They're really not, it's really washing that green out on camera. It's a really vibrant green, really rich, vibrant green. And like I said, perfectly fine acrylics. Weirdly, the antique gold isn't as nice. It's not as soft. The others are very soft. For whatever reason, the antique gold isn't. It's not bad, but it's just not as soft. Excuse me while I pick up all the crap I've just cooked on the floor. I'm using a 5mm hook, which is the recommended hook size. And yeah, really enjoying it. This is essentially a bit of a comfort project. Pick this up on a night, put a couple of rows on it, particularly if I'm stressed or I'm feeling a bit, fed up. This really makes me happy. It's going to take a long time because I think this is about 610. It's probably about 17 or 18 rows, whereas I need, I think, about 139 for the whole thing. So it's going to take a long time, but very satisfying, very easy to follow. I think even a beginner could follow it. And we'll create a wonderful tartan looking blanket. I am getting, if I hold this and don't stretch it, I'm getting some bowing, you can see. And I think I've just done my first row is a bit too loose, but I do think I keep stretching it when I hold it out, and it does stretch perfectly fine to be flat. And I think it will be absolutely fine once we get to the final thing. So this will just keep growing and growing. I'll keep showing it as we work on it. I only cast this on 2 days ago. I think it was 2 days. Yeah, it was 2 days ago. And yeah, not much work to show yet, but this will continue growing. Very much happy with how it's turning out. I'm hoping to have that done by Christmas. Whether I actually will or not, that might be unrealistic, but we'll see. Okay, let's move on to some other things then. Let's talk about, I don't think I've shown you any of these yet, so these are all new. We'll talk about a sample that I'm knitting first. So I was contacted by Woolly Knit, having knit a sample for them before. I don't know if you'll remember, very early on, I think in the first video I filmed, I was knitting a sample for them. And they asked if I would mind doing another. And I said, yes, please. So I am knitting, I think it's called the Amelia cardigan. I'll pop a picture on screen. It's one of their own patterns. Their sample that they had before, or the pattern picture, is in purple. It's knit in their own wool. So it's Woolly Knit, Aran weight 400 gram cone. This is in the shade Natural Cream, which I think is much more suitable for that kind of cardigan because it's all over cabled, obviously. And look how beautiful. I am obsessed with this. The definition. Let me just hold it up a bit closer so you can actually see the definition that's coming with this. Sorry if that siren's picking up in the background. It's beautiful. In complete contrast to that cabled sweater that I knit for my other half, that was quite hard on my hands. It's the same needle size. This is a 5mm needle. That was knit on 5mm needles. Aran weight yarn, 100% wool, 100% wool. You'd think it'd be quite similar. That was really hard on my hands. The cables were quite tight. This has been a dream. This has been a dream. It's beautiful to knit. The patterns, once you've got it established, the pattern's fairly self-explanatory. That's just where I was the other day when I put a stitch marker in. And even the bobbles, the bobbles look super effective, and they were really actually very fun to knit. Yeah, it's just, the stitch definition is beautiful. It glides over the needles. I really love woolly knit wool, and this is no exception at all. So this is knit, again, it's knit flat in panels and seamed. So this is my back panel. I'm knitting the 36 to 38 inch size for them, which is what they've requested. So it's quite considerably smaller than me, which again means it flies. It's quite nice. And I'm really enjoying doing this. I've got a few weeks before this is due, but again, I think it will be done well in time because it's just sort of not knitting itself because it's cables. So let's be honest, it's not going to do that, but it is really quite fast once I start working on it. And I'm enjoying it very much. It does have pockets, which I'm a little bit nervous about, but we'll see. And that is just knitting away and away. And I can't remember when I cast that on because I didn't write it down. I'm getting better at it. I'm not there yet. I'm not fully there yet. We will get there. Okay, I've got two more completely new things to talk to you about. Both test knits, because you know me, I can't help myself. We'll talk about this one first. This is the Giverny Socks test knit for Little Loops, who is lovely Jane. We had a weird thing. We had a very weird thing. I applied for this test knit. I follow Little Loops on Instagram. I know she's UK based, so I think Instagram's just recommended her to me at some point, and I followed her. And she'd shared on her stories that she was looking for maybe one more tester for these socks in the large size. So I thought, yep, go on, I will do it. By the way, let me just show you. These are the Giverny socks. I'll show them in more detail. So yeah, she was looking for one more tester in the large size for this sock pattern that she's coming out with, and I thought, yep, go on, I'll do that. They look lovely. I think they look great. And then I was accepted, and she emailed, and in the Instagram chat she was introducing herself and everything, and I thought, I recognise that person. And then she'd said she worked at a particular shop in a particular town that sells buttons. And I was like, no. I looked at the picture. When I bought my buttons for my wedding dress, I went into a physical shop. It's well known in a certain area. There's a couple of them in Yorkshire. It's a chain. I don't want to out where she works because it's not for me to say. But she essentially, I'd gone into a physical shop to buy my buttons, and I got a lot of help from a staff member who was helping me find the right size and everything like that, and the right number that I needed. And we got chatting about the dress because I showed her the pattern and said what I was looking for, and she said she wanted to knit one, and it's Jane of Little Loops, and I didn't know at the time. She didn't know, and I said in the chat, I was like, this is going to sound really strange, but I think you helped me buy the buttons for my wedding dress, Jane. I'm the weirdo that was knitting a wedding dress. And she was like, oh my God, I remember you. Did you get it done? Because that's what we were talking about, was, okay, you've not got long left. But yeah, what a small world. What a small world. But anyway, that aside, I decided to knit these. These are going to be a Christmas present for my mum. So when we went to the Wool Monty earlier in the year, we got quite a few bits from Mossy and the Squid, and she had one single skein of a colourway called Poinsettia in the Iron Weight. I think she had it on the stall, and my mum really liked it. We didn't get it. We went back later in the day because she said, oh, I really want that one skein. Can you get me it? If I get that, can you make me something out of it? Or can I get that? And if I get you it, will you make something out of it for me? Of course, yeah, absolutely. But it had sold out by the time we went back. And then she wasn't at Yarndale. I did ask her about it there and then, and she said it's a Christmas colourway. It won't come back again until Christmas. But I have been keeping an eye on the Mossy and the Squid website, knowing my mum loved it, and she said at Yarndale that she wanted to go back and see if she had more of this colourway. So I got myself a skein. This is it caked up, but I will put a picture of the skein on screen if I've got one, because it's beautiful. This is an absolutely gorgeous colour. All reds and greens and golds and creams. It's almost like proper vintage Christmas vibes. And I got a skein on the 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon sock yarn. And I decided to knit the socks out of this. Now, because it's variegated, it does mean you can't see the pattern as well. So I will put up a picture of Jane's socks and how they're supposed to look. But they have this lovely lace pattern running down them, lace and rib. You can see it a bit in these bits where the colour's not so variegated. Or you can... And you can see the colours, was what I was about to say, on the picot cuff, which I've done at the top. I'd never done a picot cuff before. This was very fun, and I really like it. It's then also got an Eye of Partridge heel, which you really can't see very well in my colour choice, but that's done. I've done the leg, I've done the heel, and I'm on the gusset decreases of the first sock. The test knit for this is due... Does it do that? Does it show? No. The test knit for this is due on the 20th of November, I think, something like that, for one sock. And then I'm probably not going to work on the second sock straight away, because we're not actually seeing my parents until quite well after Christmas. So this will be a Christmas present for Mum. It looks so weird, doesn't it? Because it's pulling in on itself because it's rib. But you might not see the second sock finished super quickly. But it's a wonderful pattern. It's very easy to follow. It's very fun and satisfying. It's a 4-round repeat to create those little eyelets that I will put up a picture of Jane's actual pattern, picture herself, because it does look better in a solid yarn. But I think it's sort of, in a way, it lends itself, because they've almost got this sort of kind of feminine, slightly retro vibe to them because of the lace. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Maybe a little bit more whimsical, and I think that almost lends it to it with the colourway. I think my mum will love them. And I think I want a pair for myself afterwards, whether in this colourway or a different, but I want a pair of Giverny socks myself as well. There are 2 sizes in the pattern. I'm knitting the larger size, which I think is 70 stitches or 72 stitches. And I cast this on the 4th of November. So today it's been on the needles 10 days. It's a bit longer than another sock, isn't it? I was still working on those other socks when I cast these on. So I cast them on and then didn't do much more than the cuff for a bit. but these are coming along quite nicely, and we'll probably, next time I see you, will be a finished sock, and we'll be working, well, maybe we'll be working on the second, or maybe we won't. And then the last thing I've got to talk about is probably the thing I'm most excited about. It's a test knit, which I've mentioned before that I was going to be knitting, because I got some yarn from Yarndale for it. This is going to be the West Sands test knit for Rebecca of Journey Through Yarn again. I picked up some yarn at Yarndale. I think I talked about it. I picked up some of the Warth Mill DK, which is what the main colour is, because I had my contrast colours, but I didn't have a main colour. And then this week, once I'd finished those socks, I finally cast this on. Or maybe just before I'd finished the socks, I did it as a bit of an incentive. I cast on the collar, and I knew once I'd started getting going on it, I'd really want to work on it. So it was a bit of an incentive of, okay, you can't work on that now until you finish those socks. That's exactly what it was. But we are about, this is just looking like a big block of fabric at the moment, but we're about eight rows off splitting for sleeves. So this is a top-down raglan sweater with these nice, where's one of the raglans? It's got a nice, I quite like just a nice solid raglan. It's got about four or five stitch raglan, I think it is, off the top of my head. So it's quite a substantial raglan seam, and I like that, with a big funnel neck that's going to sit up sort of like that. And then it has colour work on the body and the sleeves, but not on the yoke, and I like that, and it is actually textured colour work as well. I will, by this point, have put up a picture so you can see what it's going to look like. But yeah, I am knitting the size D. I'm on the wrong page of my book. I'm knitting the size D, which I'll talk about the sizing in a minute, because I'm knitting a bit of a size down from the recommended size, which is the 4th size in the pattern, and I am using the Warth Mill DK in the shade light natural grey, or light grey natural for the main colour, which is, I really love this yarn. It's lovely to work with. It's got beautiful tonality to it. Everything I'm using is 100% wool as well, which I'm quite happy about. And then this little bit at the top is a bit of Tucker Wool DK, which is one of my contrast colours. This is in the shade, I think it's Hiesu, I don't know. I don't speak Finnish, so I don't know. I also don't know if they do Tucker Wool DK anymore. I looked this up to try and see about the cost of it and stuff like that, because I know it's not cheap. And I couldn't find the DK. I could only find the fingering weight and maybe the Aran weight, so I don't know if they still do the DK. But I had one single skein in the shade Hiesu. This is 100% finished wool, and it's 250 metres per 100 grams. One of my other contrast colours is another skein that I had in stash of the same stuff, which is the shade Reaper. It's this lovely browny orange, and together they go really nicely together. That's going to be my one of my contrast colours on the body. And then for the final one, I have a skein of Loch Lomond DK by BC Garn, which is 100% organic wool, I think. Did I write down? Yeah, 150 metres is 50 grams. Sorry, 50 grams is 150 metres, and this is in the shade Fire Red. Again, this isn't really doing it justice. That's better. It's a really bright red. Fire Red is perfect for it. My winder didn't do a very good job on this one, but it's got these tweedy little flecks in as well. So those are my 3 contrast colours against the background of, see if I can hold this up together, the cream. I think they're going to look absolutely gorgeous. So like I said, all wool, and I wanted it to be, because I wanted it to be almost like an outerwear piece again. I've got that vision of wearing it on a beach in winter and having the waves and everything. So I wanted it to be more of a rustic outerwear piece, and I'm very happy with how this is working up. I'm about eight rows again away from splitting for the sleeves. I cast this on the 7th of November, so a week's worth of work. Like I said, the first couple of days I did a little bit on the rib and then didn't do much because I needed to finish those socks first. But then the rest of it has been, we've been watching Wolf Hall, and I need something that I don't really need to concentrate on when I'm watching that, because I need to concentrate on Wolf Hall because there's so many Thomases. Why was everybody called Thomas? Can you not have different names, please? So yeah, I've been working on it while we've been watching that. And yeah, in about a week, we've got to the point where I'm about to be splitting for sleeves. And then pretty much as soon as you split for sleeves, you start on the colour work on the body. So that's what I'm going to do next. And then we'll go back and do the sleeves once I've done the body. And I'm very excited to have this done. This isn't due until just before Christmas, 22nd of December. Again, I'd like to have it done slightly before that because we're going away for Christmas and we go on the 21st. So if I could have it done slightly before that, that would be great. But if not, it can come with us because we're staying in the UK. it just would be nice to not take something that's completely at the end of its, you know, it'd be nice to be able to take something new to cast on at that point, or something that's got a lot of work left to do, not something that I might need to do a few rounds on, bind off, and then take pictures of to send for the test knit. But yeah, I'm very excited for this. It smells so unbelievably sheepy. I wish you could smell it through the screen. So sizing, I was going to talk about the sizing. So I'm knitting size D. Size D. Size D is actually a little bit small, technically a little bit small for me. So size D is recommended for a 41.25 inch bust, and I haven't actually said so far in this episode. I do in every episode, so I might as well say I am a plus size knitter with a 47 to 50 inch bust, depending on time of the month. I'm currently sitting fairly solidly around the 47. I've lost, like I mentioned, I've lost a little bit of weight. So I'm currently sitting more around the 47 inches. But yeah, that is still, 6.75 inches, 5.75, whatever. It's several inches smaller than my bust size. But it has a lot of recommended ease in it. And I've found from personal experience that I just don't like that much ease on me. I think it recommends... Yeah, so for size D, the finished garment bust is 51.25 inches, so that will still give me 4.25 inches of positive ease, and that is the sweet spot for me. 4 inches of positive ease is where I absolutely love to be. But it would have had 10 inches, which is the recommended amount, and I get completely that some people love that really works for some people, but for me that's just, I don't like that on my body. I think it's too much. So I'm making a size down with the agreement of Rebecca. Before I even applied for the test, I'd messaged her and said, could I knit a smaller size with less positive ease, because that's what I really like. So it's going to have about 4 inches of positive ease on me. I think if I knit the size that, weirdly I was between sizes, so like I said, 47 inch bust. I'm sure the next one up was a 45.25 inch bust, and then the one after that was 49.25, so I would have been in the middle of two. And depending on which one I'd picked, if I'd picked the upper one, I think I would have had probably about 12 inches of positive ease, which is a lot of positive ease. If I'd picked the 45, I still would have had about 7 or 8 inches. I think it was 8.25, which again is a bit more than I like. So this one should work really well for me, and hopefully should give her as well some indication of what it looks like with less positive ease. Like I say, I'm doing this because this has got about 10 inches, and I do get away with it, but I don't feel as comfortable in it as I used to do when it had about 4. So that's why I'm knitting a different size. But yeah, this has been the thing that I really want to work on. And I've got other things that I need to work on first. What I have done, and I meant to mention it last time, but I completely forgot. I've been a complete sad act, basically. And because I've got a lot of deadlines and stuff, and I've got gift knitting that I want to do as well, I have on my whiteboard that I have in my office upstairs, which is also my yarn stash, I've written down all my deadlines, and I've done them in order of when needs to be done. And I've really liked that. I've really liked that, because I've been able, basically, when I'm unsure of what I want to work on or what needs to be done next, or I'm feeling overwhelmed by it or anything like that, I go and look at my whiteboard. Right, that one's next, so that's what I need to work on next. And actually next due, I think I put down there, I don't know, is the Giverny Socks. So they're what's been taking most of my time at the moment. And then after that, it's the woolly knit sample. So these two are the two that I'm going to need to really work on the most. But yeah, I'm having got the jumper for Christian out of the way, which wasn't a massive thing, but it was just, I just wanted to get it completed so we could wear it when it starts turning cold. And having got those socks out the way, I am feeling like a massive weight's lifted. And it's been really, really refreshing to have completely new projects to work on again. I'm finding I've completely got my mojo back. There's nothing really here that I don't want to work on, that I don't want to pick up and engage with. It's more of a case of I want to work on them all and I can only work on one at once. So I'm very much enjoying the crafting and the hobby at the moment. I've been doing a bit of cross stitching as well. I've joined a stitch along. I'm not going to show it this week just because there's not massive amounts of progress on it, but next week possibly, or the week after, whenever I film next, I will show what I've done on that, which is it's the Hoops and Crosses Home Alone stitch along. That I've joined in, and I've been enjoying that as well. I've said before, it's sort of adjacent to knitting and crochet for me, but almost tickles a little different bit of my brain, because it's like paint by numbers, isn't it? So I find that very satisfying. And Home Alone is one of my husband's favourite Christmas films. So that will be a nice thing to be able to have on display as a Christmas decoration in the house. So yeah, that will be progressing nicely as well. But yeah, there's a lot of whips at the moment. I'm completely aware of that, but I'm feeling really good about all of them. There is nothing that's stressing me out now. The woolly knit sample is going to start if I don't get some more work done on it, because I need to get this done in a few weeks. Like I said, I think it's probably about 3.5 weeks, something like that. But say I haven't been dedicated working on this, and this is probably only about a week's worth of work, and say I haven't been dedicated, like most of my time has gone on this and the sock and all sorts of other stuff, let's be honest. So I think I can really crack through and get that done, but I am feeling incredibly good about the craft at the moment and enjoying it very much and really feeling reinvigorated. I hope you all are too, because I know we're getting into that time of year where the nights are getting dark, it's colder outside, the leaves are all falling off the trees, and I don't know about anybody else, but I've been finding that quite challenging this year. Normally I quite like that transitional period, but this year it feels like it's gone so quick, and it feels like it's dark at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I've noticed while we're filming that the lights changed and it's got a bit dark, and it's not even 12 o'clock yet. So yeah, I'm struggling with that a bit, and I'm trying to really embrace crafting and stuff like that to make me feel better. If anybody's got any tips for that, let me know, because I'm finding it challenging. But other than sitting under a blanket and knitting and crocheting for hours at a time, I've got that one down pat. I'm covered for that. But yeah, I think that is everything that I have to share with you guys this time. Like I said, let me know whether you'd like weekly or bi-weekly. I think I'm going to try weekly, because there's just so much to update you on every time. And we'll see how it goes. If I can't keep up with that schedule, we'll go back to bi-weekly. But I hope you've all enjoyed the update, and are looking forward to one in a little bit less time this time. I hope you've been able to get some stitches in whilst you've been watching me, whether it's knitting, crochet, cross stitch, whatever. Let me know what you're working on. I always like to see. And yeah, if you liked it, drop a like. If you want to see what's coming up, hit subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Have a great day, week, or evening, or whatever, until I see you next. Bye.